Hello, hi, and welcome back to the Empowering Family Health podcast. I'm your host, Johann, and today on the show we have the wonderful Harriet Mc Guigan. Harriet Mc Guigan is a mindset strategist who helps super talented entrepreneurs who are underperforming and don't even know why. Harriet helps you to change your mindset, take imperfect action and start living abundantly. Now, I love Harriet Mc Guigan. She is full of inspiration, full of wisdom and knowledge, and it is truly a privilege to have Harriet on the show today. In this episode, we're going to be talking about entrepreneurs. We're going to be talking about overworking, underperforming. We're going to be having a look at poverty mindset, what really holds us back, stress, burnout, and sleepless nights as well. We're also going to talk about where so much of our disease comes from self-hatred, and people find a lot of excuses not to find their freedom. So all that on the show. But first, I want to tell you about my book, How to Get a Good Night's Sleep. And here it is here, How to Get a Good Night's Sleep. So for a limited time, this book is available with the audio. So you'll get the audio for free when you buy the paperback. So that is for a limited time only. So do check that out. Also have a look out for the Corona Sleep podcast series coming up as well. So this is a 6-week part podcast series that you have asked for. So many people want to hear more about sleep and help them to sleep better and live a healthier and happier life. So the Corona Sleep podcast series, watch out for that. Also, in March, I will be speaking on the IntraBiz Global Summit. So do make sure you register for that free event. It's a 3-day event and there is a lot of other global world-class speakers who will be participating on the summit. So make sure you do register. All the links are going to be in the show notes below. So do make sure you register for that. Also, the 7-day free sleep challenge. Make sure you have a look at that, register for that as well. And it is only open for a limited time. And if that window passes, you do have an opportunity to buy the 7-day sleep challenge as well. So let's get on with the episode. But first, actually, this podcast is available on YouTube, and also you can catch the audio version on your favorite podcasting platform. So do make sure you like and subscribe and share this with your friends and family as well, so they can be empowered with this wonderful information as well. So let's get on with the show. So Harriet, you're very welcome to the Empowering Family Health podcast.
Thank you very much, Joanne. Really appreciate you having me on this morning, and so delighted to share my wisdom and nuggets of advice to your wonderful audience.
Brilliant, fantastic. And Harriet, I'm really, really looking forward to this because you're a woman who loves to empower people and really help people to take control of their lives again, I suppose, because there's so many people suffering out there unnecessarily, and this is what your whole work is comprised of. So before we dive into all of that, Harriet, tell us a little bit about who you are and tell us why you're so passionate about this work.
Absolutely. So I'm saying hi to all of you now from lovely Inch Beach down in Kerry, in County Kerry, and so grateful to live by the beach. And I'm so grateful that I've had the awareness to live near the sea, because for me that's really important, and I'm blessed that I was fortunate to be able to make that move. And for anyone listening, I suppose, in terms of why I got interested in mindfulness and empowerment and mindset, it was because for years, I mean, from a very young girl, I, was controlled by certain circumstances that a lot of us are. So I went on a journey to change my mindset and get laser focused so that I could move from that fearful place that I lived in to living abundantly. So because I've been able to do that, like all these amazing kind of resilient people in the world, like yourself, Joanne, I know that other people come along with me. So I work with people who have had adversity, have had challenges, but have that real knowing that they're much more than their challenges. Like even this morning I was reading, I follow Anita Murjani. I don't know if you know her. I think I mentioned her to you maybe when we chatted the last time, but she wrote Dying to Be Me.
Oh,
And she survived stage 4 cancer. Not only did she survive it, but she had a near death experience or a death experience and came back. And her life mission is to and I would have a similar stance, that so much of our dis-ease comes from our self-hatred. And I know
yeah,
that sounds harsh, and we don't realize even how we're living in that way. So sometimes self-hatred can be subtle, and it can be just putting everyone else in front of ourselves and making sure everyone else gets a good night's sleep, but kind of staying up to 2 and 3 in the morning, washing uniforms, or a bit kind of,
yeah. So true.
becoming a little bit crazy. So I myself have had to kind of learn step by step how to find ways to self-care. Sometimes I don't even know what that means, but there's this inner knowing going, like, I can't help anyone if I don't help myself. And I see you sitting up, I know you totally, I can see by your energy, by me mentioning this, that you totally get what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. And I know you work with a lot of your clients, and when you collaborate with people, it's the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the biggest thing that really is taking away our power, because for many of us, we go around and we say things like, oh, you gobshite, or whatever, we're giving out to ourselves and we're calling ourselves these names and what have you, and that we're not good enough, and oh, I'll never get this, I'll never be good enough. And we say these things to ourselves all the time. So straight away, we're denying ourselves of who we are and what we're capable of. And I can really hear what you're saying, Harriet, because for many of us, we operate from a place of pleasing other people. So from our exterior world, if you like, we're doing things and we're being a certain way to please other people. So we're denying ourselves of who we are. And you
We're
were saying
denying
that,
pleasing ourselves. Sorry, yeah. We're
yeah,
not pleasing ourselves.
yeah, exactly. We're pleasing other people. And I think this is, and what you said about self-hatred, and we really don't give ourselves the time or the honor of who we are enough, really, to fill our cup up, if you like. And if we can't do that, then how can we show love or give love to anybody else around us?
100%. So sometimes we have to nearly fake it till we make it, or think of our kids, if we're mother, or, or think of our daughter. It's like, would we want our daughter to speak to herself like that? So it's really like, getting the support to learn. It is like relearning.
Yeah,
Often what's passed on, just because it was a different time, it was a different generation. Teachers, you were allowed to, I'm 43, and corporal punishment was still allowed in the 80s when I was in school.
yeah, I
So
remember that.
yeah, there was a lot of fear, and had this attitude that if I go home and speak about how the teacher is treating me, then at home you'd be in more trouble. So and that's not judging or criticizing anyone, because God love our parents. They didn't have the knowledge, thank God, that all the work you do, Joanne, and all the work I do, and all these amazing women. We're living in a different time now,
Yeah,
thank God. So we have to go on a journey to find a way to work mindfully through our frustrations, get to a place of self-acceptance and forgiveness of what happened us, because we're prisoners forever then, and I mean, I follow Edith Edgar, and she's a survivor of the Holocaust, and she talks about having to work through her anger and then her forgiveness towards the Nazis and
yeah,
the angel of death, who, like, she lived for years with a broken back through the Holocaust. She saw people eating other people's flesh. They were
yeah,
so hungry.
yeah.
As I listened to her, and I was on a Zoom call with her and Vicky Phelan, who has terminal cervical cancer, on Friday, and just to hear them talk about how they stay sane. That's what we all want. How can we stay sane when circumstances are out of our control, like illness or adversity, money challenges? We can't control our children. All we can keep controlling is how we respond to our children.
That's so great. That's so great. And there's a lot in there, what you said. And just going back, from childhood and even generations before us, we came through the famine. I know that was a long time
We
ago,
did.
the Holocaust, the wars, the world wars. So from generations back, our grandparents and their grandparents and what have you. So all that is still carried through. And this whole thing of safety and having enough food and money, and there's a lot of that kind of scarcity and survival. And there are basic needs And a lot of that has come true. But we're living in a different era now, as you say, Harriet, and our children, like now is the time to unlearn all that, as you say, because it's not relevant so much anymore. We're living in a totally different era now. And an awful lot of that stuff has been programmed in us and even programmed from the generations in our DNA as well. And children, when we're growing up, we literally absorb everything and we don't question anything. We just take it at face value as it is. And that's the truth as far as children are, and they only start to question it later on in life. But it's all this program unlearning that you're talking about, Harriet, that we need to do now, and it's doable. And can you tell us a little bit more about that whole process of unlearning and how we can do that, how we can go through that process?
Yeah, so the first thing is we need to work with someone that we have a good connection with and that we trust. Um, I mean, a huge amount of healing happens in relationships. So from tiny, like you see babies, if they're have to go into neonatal, or, you know, they're kept away from their parents due to illness, or, you know, a baby, you'd hear a bit, if I had a baby beside me now who wasn't with its mum, you could imagine that it would be crying so loudly that you could nearly hear it in Dublin,
Yeah.
in Kerry. You know, that's the primal instinct. So when you ask me about where's the first step is finding someone that we feel a connection with and that we trust and that we will allow in to hold our hands. Because, you see, a trauma response is, I don't need anyone, I'm going to do all of this on my own. And that isn't helpful, especially when we're mothers or entrepreneurs or trying to live in the world, because we only survive, we only thrive, not just survive, in connection.
Yes, that's
so,
true.
Often people that initially would start to work with me would be very sure that they don't need anyone, but there is something they were drawn to me about. And then as they start melting into themselves, they realize, oh God, I have been lonely a very long time, but I just didn't allow myself to feel my loneliness. So absolutely, Joanne, everything can be unlearned, everything. And the wisest of us will keep being open to, what can I unlearn today? What can I learn new for myself today? But I love what you said about unlearn. And Edith Edgar said, you know, honor your parents, of course, and honor the life they gave us. Even sometimes, whatever we've grown up with, they gave us life. We wouldn't be here only for growing in our parents, in our mother's tummy. So honor your parents, but you don't have to be like them. And I don't mean that even in a critical sense. I mean that in terms of, if mom never self-cared and mom always put herself at the bottom of the ladder, or mom stayed up till 2 and 3 in the morning cooking and baking and, you know, drove herself. Like, I've worked with people that parents have had brain tumors and dropped dead because of, like, that's extreme lack of self-care. I'm not saying, I know some people get brain tumors and it's nothing to do with stress, but I mean, our body can only take so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I can hear as well there, Harriet, and it's so great. You were saying, you know, with children, and they follow in the footsteps of our parents most, and because children learn from their parents' behaviors, not what they tell them to do. And for many children in school, you hear them, you know, what are you going to be when you grow up? Oh, I'm going to be a doctor like my mother, or whatever, you know, and this has been the expectation almost, you know. So we're not allowing the child to be, you know, who they really are. So whatever they're creative, whatever they're, where they're having fun, you know, where they're having fun in life, that's their creativity, and they can develop on that. But we tell our children, oh, stop daydreaming and do your maths and concentrate and, you know, get your A grades and all of this, you know. And it's the whole, we're dampening down that whole creativity and who they really are, because where they're having fun and where they're enjoying whatever it is that they're doing, they can develop on that into a skill set for, you know, an entrepreneurial skill or whatever. And that's what's missing. And allowing the children to be who they are, and not because it's expected of them to be a certain way or to have a certain job, you know.
Yeah, and I would even continue on from that. I think if we allow ourselves to be who we are as mothers, as women, as entrepreneurs, again, like what you said, that's what children will pick up rather than what we're saying to them. So for you guys listening, do you allow yourself to tap into your creativity? Do you have things in your week that are fun for you? They're not a waste of time. You see, the thing is, we forget that there were so many things when we were little that we enjoyed doing, like coloring and painting and like running and, you know, all these fun, going on the trampoline. And suddenly then life gets serious and we think that there isn't time to play, but
Yeah.
it's like putting time into seriously play,
Yeah.
actually putting time into seriously play. And sometimes we do have to fake it till we make it if we're used to, like, as we talked about, you know, that it's in our DNA, the famine, the poverty, the scarcity.
Yeah.
So there can be that real poverty thinking mindset.
Yeah.
There isn't enough time. I'm wasting. There's a, you know, I often hear people even talking about, like, you know, the guilt they have of coming to me. They work through it obviously, but they can hear their dad's voice. Wouldn't you be well now going out getting a shovel and doing your garden, wasting €100 chatting about rubbish kind of thing. And, you know, we laugh about it, but also, you know, there can be that real loyalty to the hardship, to the
Yeah.
and it is, I remember meeting a very senior psychotherapist who has worked all over the world, and she said that the pain of us as Irish people is as deep as Holocaust survivors. And that's possibly why I'm so drawn to Edith Edgar, because of the famine and the poverty and the pain and the domination, you know, from our history of, like, England ruling us, you know. So there's that. And what can happen is if we don't bring that into consciousness, so we have the fancy car, we have the big house, however, we feel poor inside. So we can't look someone in the eye when we're wearing our designer clothes. So that's where mindset comes in. Wouldn't it be so gorgeous to feel our beauty as well as having the designer clothes on, if that's what people choose,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely. And there was something that you said there when you were talking about having fun and going on the trampoline and colouring and what have you. And I do that with my daughter, and I find when I do that, because we're using different areas of the brain, right? And we're focusing on something. So all this worry about money and finances and what I'm going to get for dinner is not there when we're colouring. And that's really important, to give those parts of the brain a rest, and you're present. And that's the whole point, is you're actually present. You're here right now doing your colouring or whatever may it be. And another thing you said as well is, you know, wouldn't you be well off if you were able to do whatever? I always say to people, time seems to be a big obstacle for people, and the perception of time. So there's 24 hours in the day. It's the same for everyone. It's about managing your tasks and not time. You can't manage time. Time is time. But one thing I always say to people is, you know, you can be more productive during the daytime, especially as an entrepreneur. I get a lot of entrepreneurs, and they're trying to get as much done as they can in the day with all the time that they have, right? But this continuous cycle is going to lead to stress and burnout and sleepless nights.
Yeah.
And I say to people, you know what? Take, you know, regular times during the day, take a break, and that break could consist of colouring or going for a walk or jumping on a trampoline or having a nap for a few minutes or doing a meditation or something for you, something that helps you relax. It could be reading a book, sitting down, watching a cup of tea, or sorry, watching the TV, having a cup of tea. So anything at all, just for a few minutes, to take that time out, because you will find you'll be more productive as a result of that.
It's so important what you said, and it's like the mindset, if we don't catch it, can be there isn't enough time to stop, you know, go. And I work with a lot of entrepreneurs as well that, you know, are underperforming and they've no idea why, and often their underperformance is linked with they don't have good sleep hygiene. They're not aware of sleep hygiene. They're not aware of how important actually taking time out is. They think they're in that poverty thinking mentality, but actually it leads to more abundance, because often we get ideas when we go on a walk for pivoting our business or leveraging our business. So none of it is a waste. And like what you said, everyone has the same 24 hours in the day. And it's just becoming more strategic about how I'm using my time, and nothing is a waste in terms of what time we spend creatively. Obviously, my granny was great for saying everything in moderation. She used to always say, you know, because like we can be very extreme about no sugar, no this, and, you know, and some nights we can manage if we're at a party till 3 a.m. We wouldn't want to miss the party. But if that 3 a.m. is a regular thing, I mean, that's linked with risk of heightened cancer, you know, so many illnesses. The first question I ask someone when they sit in front of me, Joanne, is how many hours sleep are you getting? What time are you going to sleep? Because again, that has a huge impact. It's not the same going to bed at 2 and 3 in the morning and staying in bed till 11 and 12. I mean, obviously a lot of the older audience won't be staying in bed that long, but you know, I work with younger people as well, and they in their 20s, they are blown away how much better they're feeling without any medication by literally just changing their sleep routine and getting, organized and slowing down from 10 o'clock, because the
So
sleep
true.
before 12 is a very different quality sleep to if we go to bed right into the middle of the night. And like, so a lot of people struggle with sleep. And if any of you listening are struggling, like, God love you, it's torture. That's how they torture people.
Yeah.
But there are different strategies, that if we are open, we were talking earlier, Joanne, about being open to getting the help. We are in a different time. Our parents in the 50s, 60s, 70s, there wasn't all this support. There wasn't Joanne Callahan. There wasn't Harriet Mc Guigan. There wasn't Edith Edgar books, The
Yeah.
Choice, The Gift. So now we have everything at our fingertips, but we have to engage with it. If I have a life vest for you, you have to put the life vest on. I'll help you put it on. But you
have to want to
can't.
do it as well, don't you? You have to.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's about, I suppose, Harriet, to be responsible for who you are, be responsible. And by being responsible, and I've found, Harriet, over the last, especially the last 2 years, by asking people for help to help me, and I can help other people as well. In the entrepreneurial world, I do an awful lot of networking, and I find that when I help people, they are only too willing to help me back, and it's so great. It makes life so much easier. And I think when you can get over the whole thing of trying to control things and that ego, getting away from that ego, because
Yeah.
ego is all about survival and being the best, wanting to be the best or be better than somebody else, right? That's what ego is all about. But when you look, we're all individuals and we all have our own unique gifts. Every single one of us do, like really and truly we do. And it's really about discovering that. And it could take a while, but having a look. And you talked about being aware and consciousness. And that's what that all is discovering who you really are, is by being aware of what makes you light up, what really excites you and what doesn't. And it's different for everybody. That's why being responsible for ourselves and who we are, it's a journey of life, and it's so exciting.
It is, and we wouldn't hurt a fly. When we know exactly who we are, then it doesn't bother us that other women are doing things, they're earning more than us. All of that comparison is, like, again, they say it's the thief of joy. It's like, we're on a knife edge all the time between life and death. But even metaphorically, life and death of, can we say that we, can you guys listening today really say that you know who you are? I mean, that's bigger than having any Christian Louboutin shoes, in my opinion, to really,
Absolutely.
really know who we are. And we're always on that journey. And it's not giving up. It's being hungry enough for ourselves to make those changes, because our parents and the generation before that, I think of my lovely granny, who was a very strong woman. She was an entrepreneur, amazing lady, didn't have the same opportunities, because obviously women were called, that you didn't even get addressed. You were addressed by your husband's name. That was the generation it was, and I'm listening to the Queen. I'm watching the Queen's Gambit at the moment on Netflix, and it shows you on that show, it's showing what life was like for women in the 50s and 60s. So we are living, like, the positive of that is we're living in 2020 now. We've got a new female vice president in the States who's female. She's the first female black female, vice president.
Wow.
And so for all those women listening, and all those, like, what I say is, if you're male or female, be a feminist. So feminism isn't about hating men at all. Feminism is about respecting the wisdom that we have as women, that is so beneficial to the business world for men and women.
That's really true, Harriet. And like, there's all this thing about men and women, men are better than women, or women are better than men, or whatever, right? But
Yeah.
but we have our own uniqueness, and men are really good workers, and they're great at playing. They're great at playing with the kids, right? Brilliant. But I think the women are stronger in the area of compassion and nurturing. And they do have very strong leadership qualities as well. The men do as well. But it's maximizing those strengths that each of us have, and working together and really optimizing it as a whole. And that's what it's all about. And like, I love what you say about feminism. Yeah, it's really all about that. And it's just the differences, and men have their own uniqueness as well.
Yeah, and they're not being in the poverty thinking mentality, which again comes back from the famine, if we bring up the famine.
Yeah.
So feeling, if I share wisdom with Joanne, then she'll make more money than me, or if I share wisdom with Harriet, and like throwing that out the window, because like what you said, with all your networking and with all the way you do business, the more we serve and the more we, even Edgar said, she doesn't even look at it as a job. She's like, how can I help?
Yes.
I think if we get into that mentality as entrepreneurs, as women, how can I help every day in terms of being a mom? Because I think when we're in our lower self and our ego, we don't want to help anyone. We just want take. It's that
Yeah.
real kind of greedy
Consume
toddler
everything.
child. Extreme case being the current president in the States. It's like it's me, myself and I. And it takes humility, but it's so worth it, Joanne, because I mean, I'm sitting here with you and I can feel your light and I see the hearts on the bed behind you. It brings us into our beauty. And I could cry saying that. That's why, because it is a bit like people will spend their whole lives avoiding coming to someone like Harriet or Joanne. That's what we do as humans. We keep going, keep, the blinkers on, doing something over and over again, expecting a different result, they say is insanity. But we're quite insane as humans. So we'll keep pushing and pushing and pushing until then we get an illness, or our daughter becomes estranged from us, or there's an addiction in the family, or something, hits us like a truck. And even at that, sometimes, and I work with families, sometimes parents don't want to look at their part. It's the 16-year-old's problem. She's the problem. We're perfect. She's the problem. And like, I'm not saying that being critical. I have so much compassion for the people I work with. And I have so much compassion for people who never go on this journey. God love them, because I mean, ultimately, what do we want before we go? To say that we've lived well. For me, I think, and often I think who's drawn to listening to your podcast, Joanne, do we want to say we lived a well-lived life with the circumstances we had? Or would we like someone to say, geez, she was so talented, but she never quite did anything?
Yeah. And Harriet, you talk about life circumstances and what have you, and look, life happens, okay? And sometimes we can't control it, like exactly like what you said. And what I find personally is, life happens, but it's how you look on that circumstance or that event. So for example, if it's raining outside, I could go outside and I could say, oh damn, it's raining again, and I'm going to get wet and I can't go walking, and la 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 la, right? Complain, okay? Or I could go outside and I could say, oh, it's raining. Oh, fantastic. I love the rain because it's so cleansing and clearing, and it's just nice to walk in the rain. I'll just go on a little short walk so I don't get too wet or whatever. Or if I have my rain gear on, if I'm dressed for it, brilliant. It's about your attitude and your perspective, your outlook on the circumstance or the event can change everything. And if I'm not complaining, I done a very big exercise about complaining, see how many times or where I was complaining throughout the day. And I was so surprised, but I had to be really aware of it, right? Because wherever there is a complaint, there is something that is not working for you in your life right there and then. There's something not working, and there's a dis-ease, about. So imagine if you could be with, and you spoke earlier on about being with life, just being with what is. If you could be with the rain and just be happy about it or whatever, and isn't that so much more freeing, Harriet?
Absolutely. And it's like Edith Eger said, victims are rigid. So in relation to the rain, there's a rigidity. Oh, I'm not going to walk any day it's wet. I mean, we're going to be quite stuck in Ireland with that in the winter. There's plenty of rain days, but there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing, really. Yeah. And survivors are flexible. So, she also talked about these two war veterans who were paralyzed, and it's in her new book, The Gift. And one of them was very, very angry that he lost his walk. Understandably, he didn't want to talk to anyone. He pushed everyone away. And the other veteran, she was working in this hospital of survivors. And the other veteran said, I feel so blessed, he said, because now I'm at the same angle that I can see my grandchildren right in the eye, because I have to sit all the time. I'm noticing their eyes that I never, like, he totally had a different mindset and perspective. And there's this amazing boy down in Killarney who is paralyzed, and I used to work in the school. I was a psychotherapist in a boys' school for 4 years. I was going to say for 800 years. There's 800 boys in the school. Probably felt like 800 years sometimes. But He said, if you can't stand up, stand out. That's his motto. He's paralyzed. He's an amazing young boy. He talks a lot about helping people to change their mindset in relation to depression or expression. He's the opposite of depression is expression. And, you know, I love that quote. His name is Ian. And he says, if you can't stand up, stand out. And it's a bit like John Kabat-Zinn says, as long as you're breathing, there's more right with you than wrong with you.
Love it.
You know?
Absolutely love it. And I'm hearing in that as well, Harriet, that, you know, about we all try to fit in. We try to fit in, and the masses, the majority of people, we're just following each other and we're doing what each other person is doing. And when you stand out, that is your full expression of yourself, and you're doing what you think is best. You're helping people, and standing out is just like 20% of the people or 10% of the people or whatever. It's a small portion of the people, but standing out is you are fully confident and fully self-expressed, and you're not afraid of who you are. And that's what's magnificent about that.
Yeah, and if 10% actually become conscious, that's 1 billion people all over the world. So it does add up, you know, it does add up. The more conscious people come along together, and meeting, being around the right mind, being around the right tribe is really important as well. So, you know, I speak a lot on Harriet Mc Guigan mindset on my Facebook page and Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn as well. And if anyone wants to follow, I speak regularly. I invite a lot of guests, and I'm really looking forward to having you on tomorrow, Joanne, you know, to help people, because it's so human that we go into victim place. We all go into that place, but it's to remember that you're a survivor and you're flexible and not to give up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the whole victim thing, you know, being a victim or a victor, and I think what's missing in that is being responsible for who you are. I think it comes down to being responsible. And look, you don't have to know how.
Yeah.
It's the first step is being responsible and being willing to look for help. And looking for help could be, you know, it could be reading a book, looking at a YouTube video, or ringing someone up and having a conversation, or it could be lots of different things. But go and look for help, because we don't know what we don't know, Harriet. And that's what I'm saying. We don't know the answers. We don't know the how. But when we inquire and start asking the questions, the answers will come.
Absolutely. And it's loving her. It's looking at it, changing the mindset, even rather than, oh my God, I have to leave with Harry. There's something wrong with me. Rather than going, I love myself enough to actually be flexible enough to have someone walk me through fear to abundance. And, you know, if anyone resonates with our chat, I can offer you a 30-minute call, no charge. It's worth €200, and I'll walk you through fear, which is false evidence of hearing real, to living abundantly and making changes so that you can have ultimately peace in your life and acceptance, so that, you know, you, like someone recently gave me feedback and they said, how can you even put words into someone who's given you gave me my life back, Harriet?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it is, because people are existing, and you said that earlier on, people are existing, and you know, rather than really living a fully fulfilled life. And when you know what it is that you are passionate about, or your purpose, and look, it could be just something small. It doesn't have to be a big mission. You know, just once you have a purpose, something to get out of bed for in the morning time.
Yeah,
That,
absolutely.
you know, and
I agree.
Live your day. And for many people, they can't see that. And it could be just something simple, just a twist in perspective.
I say, I'm a good diamond polisher for people. You know, people say, you did this for me, Harry, you did that. And I said, I just polished the diamond that you are. But you have to engage. You have to engage with me. You have to come along. You don't bring your diamond to Tiffany's to be polished. It'll stay dirty and dusty. But if you engage and come to Tiffany's, you know, and come along with me, you'll get there. Absolutely. I mean, think of Edith. She's 93 now. She still sees one-to-one clients.
Wow. Oh my God.
She's fully working, fully alive. The best way to get in touch with me, and you can put the social media links and everything that I've sent you. Absolutely. mindfulpeeps@gmail.com is my email, and
say that again.
Send me private message. mindfulpeeps@gmail.com. So it's mindful, mindfulpeeps @gmail.com. or else they can send me a private message to any of the social media links.
And that's a fantastic offer, folks. Harriet is offering a 30-minute free consultation call. Is that right, Harriet?
Yeah.
And to get you on the path to open up that open that way up for the rest of your life, imagine, and start discovering, and really, really just to start you on that pathway, that journey. And it's a journey. It's every day we're discovering things about ourselves, and there's fun in that, really, when you look at it that way. But really looking at things in a different way can change, and it can change your whole life, but free you up to really be who you are and be vulnerable, and to be safe in being vulnerable.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's all about. So folks, that's a fantastic offer Harriet is offering if anyone wants to reach out to Harriet, and all the links will be in the show notes. Just tell us again, where are you on LinkedIn, because we're coming near the end here, and I'm going to ask you one more question before we finish.
I'm Harriet Mc Guigan Mindset, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. So it's just my full name, Harriet Mc Guigan, and then Mindset. Brilliant. Johann will put the links as well for you guys. So if you didn't get that by listening, you can check. She'll have all the notes.
Yeah. And this is available in audio podcast, and it's also available on YouTube as well. So you'll find this video on YouTube as well. Harriet, we're coming to the end, and I do want to ask you one last question, and I don't want to let you go because this has been such an empowering, really valuable information that people really need to know. And it's so simple, but I get it's not easy.
We complicate things, those humans.
Yeah.
She also said that people find a lot of, Edith Edgar's words, people find a lot of excuses not to find freedom.
Oh my God, there you go now. Yeah, enough. And you know what that is? Because, in my opinion, because people don't want to be responsible, because they know they have to do, and it's not easy having a look at all this stuff and having a look at, all the terrible things that we've done and owning that. But in owning that, we can still move on. It doesn't mean we're a bad person. There's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong in any of this. We are who we are. And as you say, we all have that diamond inside us. Like, we all have it. We all have the answers. We just haven't discovered it yet. That's what I really believe. And because every single person, don't underestimate who you really are, because we really are all powerful human beings, and we all have unique gifts. And in that, Harriet, I want to ask you one final question. So if you were to leave us with a message, like a really empowering message, what one message can you leave with people to really have them start on the journey of discovering who they really are, so that they can really be empowered and have a fulfilled life?
So today, I'm not sure exactly what date. Oh, it's 23rd. So it's the 23rd of November, last week of November 2020. If you don't do something about what's resonating with you today, you'll just keep kicking your problems down the road. It's like kicking a can down the road. So I often say to people, you'll just be a bit grayer or a bit older, or your body will be a bit slower, but our drive to want what we want doesn't ever go away. I mean, you can meet someone in their 80s and they'll still to their core have that diamond that they didn't get polished or get supported with. Yeah. So my message is, your time is now. What's the waiting? What's the waiting about? Like you were saying, it isn't easy, but there's so many. The lovely thing is that it leads to so many gifts, because I've women now that used to be always like on the go, back to back scheduled, and suddenly they realize how beautiful their sunroom is. They never even sat in their sunroom, so they had everything in their house, but they were just so caught up with their trauma and anxiety that they felt too frightened of being with themselves. It's so sad that we're actually more scared of ourselves than anyone else, so we can project onto other people. I mean, this is a whole other conversation, but it's like, imagine if we could not feel afraid of being in our own bones. I mean, that's what I love people to get to the place of. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's actually, the monster is the avoiding.
Yeah. Because you're staying in your own prison, isn't it? You're keeping that prison built around you. And there's lots of opportunities and lots of help, whatever way you want to start off small or go for it. Because really at the end of the day, getting help from people or and just opening up and having a conversation, you'll be surprised at what you find in a conversation. So I encourage anyone listening to have a conversation with Harriet.
Yeah, even just having the conversation could be enough for some people, you know, and I'll give you a map. Because that's what we struggle with. It's like not having a torch when we go out walking in the nighttime, not having your raincoat. It's having that support. I think that's what frightened us the most. But we are in a different era, and there's so much support out there now.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And look, even I have my own coach. I'm sure you have someone as well, Harry, that you speak to as well. So it doesn't matter how successful you are, and success is day by day, moment by moment, as far as, in my opinion, as well. So folks, that's it. So listen, Harriet, thank you so much for your time with us today. I really, really appreciate your valuable information, and I'm sure that you've helped so many people, even people just listening to this conversation. But do reach out to Harriet as well if you feel that can help you as well. So Harriet, thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Joanne. You too. Look forward to connecting with you soon.